Please listen carefully.
Well, hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Kristy Jansen.
And I'm Summers McKay.
And we are part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to get us all focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, watering your plants outside while you look at a kaleidoscope of butterflies-worthy podcast. Today is Thursday, the 4th of November, 2021. So Kristy and I got to share a little magic this morning. I, as many of you know, have been super blessed to have this great big property that we purchased when we left California and moved to Austin, Texas. And on our land, I have always envisioned being a resting place, a stopover place for my favorite friends, birds, bees, and bugs. And, well, today I went out to go water our 30 new Arizona pines that we have put there to try to increase kind of biodiversity back there. And there was a kaleidoscope of 1,000 or more monarch butterflies resting in one of my trees. And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I feel like
sort of magical to come out and see a tree full of butterflies, right?
Yeah. And Kristy and I were doing our morning check-in. I was like trying to show her on the phone, and it doesn't
translate.
Doesn't translate. But what I will say is that right now, like this past month has been super tough for me personally. I'm going through a thing. It's fine. My health, my wellness, my life, my family, like everything is just under a lot of pressure. But Kristy reminded me that was one of the vision board intentions that I had for relocating here and creating this space. And so I got my gift from the universe today. So anyway, thank you, universe, for my magic gift. And I hope everybody else gets a good gift from the universe in these coming days. Because we all just need to be reminded that even when it gets tough, there's still room for a kaleidoscope of butterflies.
Room for magic.
For magic. Now, fully admitting, I did not know what a flock of butterflies was called.
Right. You had to look it up. But
I had to look it up.
It's a kaleidoscope. Yeah. I love that that's the...
Yeah. It can be a swarm, a rabble, a kaleidoscope, or a flutter of butterflies. So we're going with kaleidoscope today. Now, going with some other good stuff. Why
don't you go first? Because sometimes you're a pollinator, starting with pollinators.
Right. So as we talk about, we know the critical nature of pollinators and what they offer into ecosystems. We also know that agriculture is changing, and some ag solutions don't necessarily, like relying on bees for pollination is not the best option. So this headline reads, "When bees can't get to crops, these robots step in." Colony collapse disorder, harmful pesticides, climate change. Everybody knows there's a global decline of bee species. And it's not only an urgent biodiversity problem, but it's also a food problem, right? But in particular, produce that is grown in greenhouses or indoor vertical farms also still needs to be pollinated. But since neither of those environments is suitable for bees, they need an alternative solution. Enter the scientists at West Virginia University who have been working on, along with funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, 6-armed robot that it can help pollinate crops in greenhouses and indoor farms.
They call it the Stickbug.
The Stickbug, right? So this 6-armed Stickbug, assisted by computer vision algorithms, maps out indoor environments, learns where the flowers are on the plants, spots which ones need to be pollinated, and then uses its little arms to pollinate those flowers. It could potentially be coordinated action, but largely, if a flower is behind a branch, you could have this little Stickbug move one arm, move the branch way, and use the other to pollinate. So The idea of bug robots is somewhat terrifying in some
Yeah,
ways. I feel like this
I
could
know.
be like the
It's a little
the
bit of a
precursor to some sort of horror film.
Is it a solution? But I suppose it is especially when we've been writing about vertical farms and indoor
Right.
growing. Which the benefit there is that it's located close to the population center. It leads to
Exactly.
food
Reducing the
resilience.
footprint.
But when
Exactly.
you're growing like a flowering fruiting plant, you do need the pollination. And without having pollinators, that's going to be a problem. So this is an option. It's
Well,
sort of funny to me to think about because I did just get a hydroponic little herb garden started in my house.
yes.
And they also have a tomato version. You know, I can use tomato seeds and all that, which maybe I'll do at some point. But for those kinds of fruiting plants, you do need to have some pollination. So they have a pollination stick so you can do some self-pollinating in your house. So something to think about.
Well, I think there are other robots that do this kind of thing, but in particular, the Stickbug is different because it's got all 6 of these appendages. So anyway,
what else has 6 appendages? Yeah. This reminds me of an insect.
An insect, right?
So it's copying nature. It's using the inspiration of nature to come up with a solution to places that quotes nature. I mean, everything is nature because we're natural, but
But where bugs can't go, we can copy nature.
Nature.
Speaking is there something else like that?
Yes. As a matter of fact. So my headline is also about technological advances that really go back to the old school and what Mother Nature has provided. And the headline reads, Modeling AI from Nature's Own Supercomputer. The brain. That's right. We all have a supercomputer. We're the most amazing AI or computing device around, and we always have been. Because AI
I love the brain. I'm a big brain fan.
Me too. I'm a big fan of the brain, but we have sometimes kind of denigrated ourselves and the amazing complexity that this organ in our head, which helps us process information, communicate, and make decisions in the world. But scientists are now starting to say, hey, for AI and machine learning, we have to look back at the old school. Let's look at how the brain tackles these things. So some scientists in this article is talking about a group of scientists from Penn State who are taking inspiration from how the brain operates. Specifically, they're looking at a part of the brain, cells called astrocytes, which play a vital role in memory, learning, synchronization, amongst other processes. And they are thinking about the brain as a organ, which is really very complex, full of electrical signals. So it's wired up. Talk about being wired. All of the cells have different jobs, different running of all the processes in our body. And we really don't have full understanding, but as they are digging into it, they're seeing how the different functions that are controlled by the different cells can inspire similar processes in non-organic systems. But basically, the astrocytes are functioning like complex computers, transferring and redirecting the electrical signals around them to create the system. And they are also have the astonishing ability to self-repair neurons and synapses after damage. So basically, they are the wires and the junctions in the brain that are also self-healing. By studying these abilities and the application of better energy and fault resistance, and then putting those into how AI and computing actually functions, it's leading to the elimination of problems in the field, and not just focusing on making better software, but rather let's think about how the astrocyte can influence neural phase synchronicity in new computing power. I guess.
Now we both picked like super technical stories, and yet somehow mine sounded like a story I tell a third grader, and yours sounds like something like a lecture you give to science people. What people who listen to this all the time always tell me just like how amazingly smart Kristy is, which I am I continue to agree with, and I am very impressed with you taking on a pretty complicated story this early in the morning when we are, just getting our day going. So.
I thought you were going to say that both of our stories are calling out how technology is being inspired by nature and how it's trying to solve problems that maybe we're getting ourselves into or backing ourselves into a corner, and maybe they're not just solutions, because sometimes there is this hesitancy to fully embracing the technological perspective or a technological approach in answering all of our questions, because honestly, our brain is a tremendously powerful supercomputer. So why are we trying to do away with cognitive advantages in ourselves by trying to just, create thinking machines?
So, I have to wrap this, Kristy. I am so sorry. Reality bites here. I got a dog that needs to go potty. I got a tech team that needs to be met with. Everybody look to the past to predict the future of climate change. Hello, Texas. And then if you have to multitask, use these 3 strategies. And that much, 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 much more is available on theoptimistdaily.com. Please tune in, share us with your friends, help us keep the Optimist Daily free to all who need it, supported by those who can by becoming an emissary. Kristy, send us home.
That's it. Well, thanks so much for listening to today's Optimist Daily Update. We promise to keep sharing positive, solution-based stories with ideas on how you can participate in the changing world, help ensure it's change for the good. If you have the means and you are not already, please consider becoming an emissary on theoptimistdaily.com, because we are a reader-funded independent journalistic site, and we depend on our emissaries to keep us going. Starting from just $5 a month, you can help support us and be part of a solution-changing consciousness that addresses our world's biggest challenges with our brain power, our problem-solving, our innate computers. That's us. Help us keep the Optimist Daily free for everybody who needs it, supported by those of us who can. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with more solutions.